location means everything. When you're talking about location means everything, period.
Yep.
But especially if we're talking about a development, there's a house in Newport News, beautiful house, new construction. It's a spot built though. It's not a whole development. But it's not priced bad, but for that area, it's been sitting for so long.
What area is it in?
It's Number Streets. Let's Talk Assets podcast. My name is Chris A. Williams, one of your hosts. I'm joined by my co-host,
Giovanni Paradis.
Gio, man, it's good to be here with you again today. Now, I know, audience, y'all are used to us having some guests up here on the pod, but we wanted to provide some additional value. I know people are saying that they miss the old days of just me and Gio on the podcast.
Absolutely.
So we got a 2-man episode today for y'all.
Yes, sir. We give them something special, give you guys kind of up to date what we're kind of going through, what we're seeing in business, in the world of real estate, and we're going to talk about some assets.
Yeah, let's do it. So, Gio, we just kind of passed Father's Day. How'd you spend your Father's Day?
Yeah, man. So Father's Day, I really didn't do much. I went out on the boat, on the jet ski, and I really don't have anyone anymore to celebrate Father's Day with. My father passed away when I was 15, and then unfortunately I lost my grandfather who raised me and was like my father. I lost him last September. So it was a little bittersweet for me, but it was kind of just took some time alone, got out in the sun, got out on the jet ski. I did meet up with my cousin. We're like brothers. We grew up, we're 6 months apart. He's like my twin cousin. He's got a bunch of kids. I spent a little bit of time with him, and then I spent time with my brother-in-law as well. We had a little cookout Saturday night. So bittersweet, but hey, me and you don't have kids. So did you get a chance to spend some time with Pops?
Yeah, man. Father's Day was a good day, I'll say. We started off with church, of course, had a little cookout and such, and then I went over to my family's house and spent some good quality time with them. It was actually pretty cool, I'll say. To be honest with you, I'm not like a person that's good with affection, I'll say. Giving words of encouragement, that's kind of my weakness. So having like a holiday already that gives that is perfect.
That's perfect.
So I mean, to be honest with you, man, I really do appreciate my father though for like the great things that he's been able to do in my life. Sort of the example that he set more than anything. So, I mean, just being honest with you, like growing up, my dad, he worked all the time. Like I think at one point he had 6 jobs at one time, which as a kid, you don't really understand. And I kind of resented him, for that, especially as I was growing up, because I was like, man, this guy is never here. The only time I would really speak to him is when he was disciplining me. Most of my communication with my parents is with my mom. So, like, when I would actually talk to him, it's just being disciplined. So that kind of built up some resentment towards me. But now as an adult, I understand exactly why he did what he did. My parents had me when they were young. I think my dad was 20, my mom was 17. So he had to get it out of the mud. That's why he had to work all those jobs and such. So I definitely appreciate him for that. And I just wanted to, say that as an adult now, like for all the great things he's done, that work ethic that I use on my day-to-day as an entrepreneur, that's installed because of him.
That's awesome, man. Shout out to Papa Williams.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. But yeah, I mean, Father's Day. Gio, what do you think about actually going live for the audience?
I think it could be beneficial. I mean, we can probably get some raw questions out there and be able to provide some value and answer some hot topics.
Yeah. So I'm actually go live on my Instagram. You should go live on your Instagram too.
All right.
And we're gonna just speak to the audience. If the audience wants to ask us questions and such, we'll just answer them up here. If they don't, cool. We're just gonna keep on flowing. But I'm about to
absolutely
live on mine.
Let's do it.
Man, all right, I'm live now, bro. It's been years since I've been live. Like, I don't even know how to really work this.
Yeah, I usually don't. I think I've gone live, I don't know, a couple times.
Yeah.
I've gone live before on a property walkthrough one time. I thought I was gonna get it was one of those probably. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
they need to have video evidence in case I don't make it out of this, bro. I was by myself. It was crazy. Abandoned property. Walking through abandoned properties, you never know what you're gonna find. So
Yeah, definitely. All right, I got some people up here. So everybody who's on my live right now, we're recording podcasts. So make sure you guys ask me questions, real estate questions, business questions. I also got Gio up here too.
Absolutely.
And ask any of us questions that you guys want to about.
What's crazy is I just got the first person that joined is a nice young lady. Her and her husband actually bought a duplex off of us.
Nice.
Yep. Her name's Jessica. It's all the people that are tuning in. Basically, we have gone live. So you guys can ask us questions here. We're shooting this podcast, going live. We're taking any questions as they come. Please drop your questions below. We're going to be answering them live, giving you guys value. Nothing's off limits. Yep. You guys can ask away all things assets, all things real estate.
Yep. So ask us questions. But while they're kind of loading up their questions and such, you want to go into what we were talking about earlier about the state of the market and such, the real estate market?
Yeah, absolutely. I can kind of bring that up here. The state of the market, State of the Union type address right here. It pauses the app if I go into it.
Okay. Well, I mean, we know what's going on. So we're in the summer season right now.
Mm-hmm.
So for the people who don't know, real estate is typically way busier in the summertime. In 2024, where we're at, though, we're seeing actually lower sales, but a higher sales price.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess you all see real estate, right? Everyone's goes, oh, we're going into the summer season. Mm-hmm. And I started picking apart. It's okay, people kind of correlate nicer weather to better home sales. Yeah. But what I've seen in my decade in real estate, why I think homes typically sell better in the summer is a lot of families logistically that makes the most sense for them.
Yeah.
Because kids are out of school, they want to move in the summer. So when they get to their next, point, their kids they're settled in, their kids are starting in school.
Yeah.
But yeah, home sales are lower than they have been since COVID. And then they matched the low levels of October of 2023 when mortgage rates peaked.
Yeah.
So even though we have May recorded a kind of a record month of home sales, a decrease in average home sales, the average price hit a record high. Mm-hmm. So you kind of think about that is, how do you correlate that? Why is that happening? Mm-hmm. Home sales are lower than ever, but prices are higher than ever. Yeah. So it's mainly due to a supply issue. Everything is supply and demand in our business. Mm-hmm. So what has happened is because interest rates have risen, people cannot sell. Mm-hmm. So these people that would typically put their home on the market want to move either to upgrade because they need more size, more space for a growing family, or their elderly want to downsize to decrease the maintenance of the type of home they have. They're kind of stuck because they're kind of locked in at lower interest rates, or they can't afford to buy a new home where their interest rates are higher. So we're seeing that the supply being low is causing the prices of homes to go up because they have less to choose from.
Yeah.
The demand outweighs the supply, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's shocking to me because when we saw this housing market, if you kind of look back the last 12 to 18 months, everyone was talking crash.
Mm-hmm.
Were you hearing that?
Yeah, I was hearing that a lot.
Crash, everything's going to go down. But, I'm still seeing offers on our flips, basically over asking, appraisal guarantees, inspections for info purposes only, really shocking, giving the rate environment. I do got a question here.
Let's do it.
It's from a good buddy of mine, a very awesome real estate professional, Chris Lloyd. Chris.
Yeah.
Says, when do you feel someone should make the shift from flipping/sales to holding rentals with cash built up, in my opinion? That is a very good question.
That's a great question. Yeah.
That is a great question. I'll answer it second. Let me ask you this question first Chris, because you've been in real estate for a few years,
Mhm.
and you kind of just started on your journey of holding rental property.
Mhm.
What kind of, to answer Chris Lloyd's question, what made you jump in and start holding property? When did you decide, hey, I've made enough sales, I've made enough? What was it for you that made you wanted to start investing?
Yeah, so as far as me investing goes, that was always my end thing. But I thought, you had to kind of go the route. You had the wholesale, then you had the flip, then you had to do that to get the investment properties. I kind of skipped all that. As you know, I still haven't even done a flip yet. I just
Yep.
went straight to buying and holding properties.
Absolutely.
But I realized like a lot of people do that route because they think they have to have the capital. But I figured out a strategy in a way in which I don't have to have that much capital to still purchase properties. So once I figured that out, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just buy as many properties as I can get my hands on, because the end goal is passive income, is assets.
Absolutely.
Talk about.
Absolutely, Chris. And can you name a few of those strategies for the viewers?
Yep, creative financing. That's my preferred one, I would say. So with creative financing, you have your seller financing, which you're going directly to the seller. That's if they own the home free and clear, meaning they don't have a mortgage on the property. You'll work out a deal with the seller. And there's also subject to, which is if the seller, they still have a mortgage on the property. In a way, kind of assuming the loan. That's kind of the easiest way to explain it, but it's not an assumption though. There's a big difference between those two.
Beautiful, beautiful. And to reiterate Chris's question, I'm going to read it again, then I'm going to answer it. That was a beautiful way to answer it, and I'll kind of expound upon that. Chris Lloyd, at Chris Lloyd _real estate, if you guys want to follow him, great guy, great real estate professional. He asked, when do you feel someone should make the shift from flipping / sales in real estate to holding rentals with that cash built up? So the way I would answer that for Chris and for anyone that has money is, if you're in real estate, I always tell people you need to have at least 6 months of bills saved up to even get into real estate.
Sure.
I always recommend people because, in our industry with real estate, it's either feast or famine.
Facts.
You eat what you kill. So if you're not killing no meat, you ain't eating. So you got to have some type of reserve built up. So once you've got your reserve built up and you're starting to make money, starting to put away money, the number one thing is, okay, you have to evaluate, and what is your monthly nut? What is your number, right?
Yeah.
And if you're good at keeping your expenses down, because only two ways to get ahead in life, right, is make more than you spend or spend less than you earn. So if you're good at doing that, when you build up your cash flow, you got to look at it from an investment standpoint, right? We're talking assets. You have that cash in the bank. If you got cash sitting in a regular bank account, you're making nothing on it. 0.0 something in interest, right? If you got it in a CD money market, I think it's a little over 5% now. You're getting on those idle accounts, a CD or a money market on your cash, obviously relatively safe. You got T-bonds, treasury bonds as well. So you got to look at your money in the bank really isn't doing nothing. A lot of people I see when they ask me, hey, when should I invest? When should I make that shift? Is you got to look at your cash on cash return. Cash on cash return is a financial metric that you should use. I use it along with cap rate, internal rate of return, these different metrics to evaluate how long my cash is going to be tied up. When do I get it back, right?
Yeah.
If you guys watch Shark Tank, I love the analogy Mr. Wonderful uses. I put hard hats on my dollars, send them out, and they go make them work for me, right? So you use that, Chris, is like, okay, you got your money sitting in the bank. What are you making on that money, right? Let's say you got $20,000, $30,000 in a bank account. How much money is that paying you, right? With real estate, and why it's so advantageous, right, with real estate, is because you can take that cash, invest it in a property. You have multiple benefits other than a return, right? You're going to get monthly income from putting that cash into the property. You buy a rental property, you're going to get cash flow. You have other factors that increase the overall return on the idle cash.
Yeah.
You have depreciation of that asset. It's a rental property. You can depreciate that residential piece of real estate. You have amortization, which pay down of the debt by the tenant, and then the appreciation of it. So that cash, so if you put 40 grand down, on a $200,000 property, right? Put 40K down, 20%, you owe 160, right? That tenant's paying down that 160, and that $200,000 value you purchased it at is going up, right? So with that $200,000 value of the property going up and your loan getting paid down by the tenant, that 40 grand in 5 years is going to be 100 grand.
Yeah.
So that's another return metric. Plus it's spitting off monthly cash flow. Plus you're getting depreciation to help shelter your tax hit.
Mm-hmm.
So which, if we're in real estate like Chris is, he is, we get taxed heavily in flipping houses, your capital gains.
Yeah.
So that would kind of be my answer, Chris. I really appreciate that question, and hopefully you guys got some value out of it.
Great question, Chris. So I got a question right here also. He asks, is leveraging your credit the key to obtaining properties and building assets without the upfront capital? What do you think about that?
Leveraging your credit?
Yep, is leveraging your credit the key to obtaining properties and building assets without upfront capital?
Yeah, so leveraging your credit in real estate is kind of a double-edged sword. When you guys are trying to go get loans in your name, and everyone that has gone to get a loan for a car, for anything, credit card, anything, there's something called debt to income, DTI, a DTI ratio, basically what your monthly debt is versus what your income is. So you got to understand at a certain point, you're going to get tapped out.
Yep.
You got an 800 credit score, but you only make 50 grand a year. Your borrowing power is going to be limited versus someone with a 700 credit score that makes $250,000 a year.
Yep.
So credit, yes, it is important. Credit is definitely significant. You leverage your credit, but you have to have income.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when you have a rental property, it's hard to scale quickly through your own credit to build a rental portfolio because typically banks want to see at least 12 months of that asset being paid by the tenant. They want the property to be stabilized before a traditional lender is going to take that off of your DTI, your debt to income ratio, and basically give back some of your borrowing power. To your follower that asked that question, what I would recommend to them is a jewel that you dropped earlier is to really study and look into creative finance. Mm-hmm. That is one of the biggest advantages to using creative finance is you're not tying up your DTI. So your financial position when you go to a bank looks very strong. Those properties, whether you want to disclose them or not, they do not show up if you don't disclose them to the bank on your DTI, and allows you to leverage your credit further. So basically for me, I bought 25 houses, for example, but if I go right now and apply for a mortgage, I'm technically a first-time home buyer because I've bought all my stuff creatively or through my LLC. Mm-hmm. But you guys got to focus on income and credit, keeping your debt low. I always tell people this. I just had this talk today with my cousin who's trying to rent out his residence and go buy another property. He's got to pay down some of his debt first. Yeah. So you guys got to if you don't have debt, great, you're in a great position. Continue to make money, find ways to generate more revenue. If you have debt, pay down all the bad debt, increase your income, and then leverage your credit.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So Gio, that's a great answer. I agree with everything. I don't really have too much to add. Only thing I would say with that, also there's the option of, partnering up with people.
Oh, that's
if you
beautiful.
don't have the upfront capital right now, go to somebody who does, provide some sort of value, whether you bring them the deal and that's your entrance for the deal, or whether, you can do something else, but just provide some value, partner up with people who are doing the same thing in which you're looking to do.
That kind of goes understated, and everybody that's watching, again, if you guys got any questions with real estate, we're live here on the Let's Talk Assets podcast, taking all questions, all things real estate. But that's what I did when I first started this journey. I had kind of packed everything up from Massachusetts, drove back down to Virginia with nothing. And when I started making money, that was cool. I had money, but I had bad credit. I had like a low 6s credit score, which to me is bad credit. I had some debt on there, and I didn't have 2 years of tax returns. I didn't have 2 years of income, so I couldn't even finance a Huffy back then. You know what I mean? I was struggling. So what I did is I knew I had the money, right? And then I know real estate. I studied. I knew how to source deals. I learned the maths of real estate. That can't go stated enough for anyone that wants to start investing in real estate, wants to start acquiring assets. You got to learn the math.
Yeah.
Once I was able to source deals, explain the math, and I had my own money to go 50-50, I had an amazing partner that said, this deal makes sense.
Yep.
You're willing to put half the money in. I'll use my credit. I got the credit.
Yep.
Don't worry about it. We'll buy the house. And so that's how I got started. And I started a company with them. We used their Social Security was tied to the EIN. Thus, the business basically had their credit. Which, again, I leveraged their credit. They leveraged my work ethic, my ability to source deals, and then we both put in the cash equally.
Yep.
So that was the partnership you're speaking of. And I tell a lot of people, but you got to lead the relationship with value.
Exactly.
A lot of people that want to get into real estate, want to do these things, kind of like say, no, you got to lead the relationship with value. You can't just go to somebody and be like, hey, co-sign for this house for me. Like, no, hey, here goes a great deal. We need like 50 grand to enter into this deal. I have 25. I found the deal. I have it under contract. Or, hey, my aunt or my friend wants to sell a property. I have a hot lead. I'm direct to the seller. And bring someone in with the deal.
Yep.
You guys have a deal like that and you want to partner up, reach out to us.
Yeah.
Me and Chris are here.
100%. 100%.
Yep.
All right, this is another question. I like this one because the person who asked this is familiar with the development space. They're asking thoughts on contemporary/modern townhome style new builds in the Hampton Roads market. Will they move or will they sell in the 800s or 900s?
Can you repeat that question one more time? Make sure I get it all.
So he's asking, what are the thoughts on contemporary/modern townhouses styles, the new builds? If they're like building new construction from the ground up in the Hampton Roads market, will they sell for the 800s or the 900,000 price range?
I don't know.
See without seeing it.
Well, yeah, I just, so basically they're saying, what is this, what is the market for a new construction townhouse?
Yeah,
I really don't know anything in Hampton Roads that's in that price range that is not waterfront, water view right near a beach. I really can't think of any area where a townhouse would be that much unless you were near a beach.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think 800, 900 is tough. Now, 6 or 7s, I can see. I think there's a development in Chesapeake that I can think of that's in that 700 range.
Yeah.
But 8 and 9s is tough.
For a townhome, unless, they're overbuilt, like 3 stories and crazy. But
yeah,
everything's a math problem, right? You have to consider a $800,000-$900,000 townhome isn't something that I would be building in the Hampton Roads market right now. I feel like those properties are going to sit at $800,000-$900,000 mortgage with today's rates is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
talking like probably $7,000-$8,000 or more.
Yeah,
with taxes and insurance.
Yeah.
So, if I wouldn't build that type of development in the current environment, I would appeal more to the medium home range. And then I think that someone that can afford a $900,000 home, a town home is kind of a certain type of person.
Yeah.
It's a subset of a subset of a subset of a market, a high-end townhome.
Yeah.
So the only type of townhomes, like, you got the row houses in Ghent. I want to consider those kind of townhomes. But the cobblestone are a little different.
Yeah.
You got some townhomes / condo, no-fee condos down at the ocean front that kind of break that price range. That's different.
Right in that water,
you're buying the location.
Yep, exactly.
You're buying the prestige. Like prestige, cobblestone. Everyone knows that's historic. You're buying that, but just a modern, brand new construction in the middle of Chesapeake. I mean, I wouldn't pay $800 for it, but hey, each his own.
Yeah, for sure. So again, guys, we're live on Instagram, so make sure you guys ask us questions. We're live on the podcast, also taking all questions. To further, reiterate that question too, and kind of expand a little bit more into it. Location means everything. When you're talking about location means everything, period. Yep. But especially if we're talking about a development, there's a house in Newport News, beautiful house, new construction. It's a spot build though. It's not a whole development. But it's not priced bad, But for that area, it's been sitting for so long.
What area is it in?
It's Number Streets.
Number Street.
Yeah, Number Streets in New.
Oh man.
So it's a beautiful house. It looks like one of those HGTV houses. I think I posted a reel of it on my
Yep.
Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that.
And people love it. It's just the location is what's making it sit. So you got to think, as a developer or a house flipper, whoever it is, the longer your house sits means the more money is costing you. So you need to have your houses sold as quickly as possible. So I wouldn't gamble on it, to be honest with you. I would go with a safe location, something where you're going to make your money back pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think this goes understanding people that invest in real estate and people, that are not in the real estate industry, but to understand the principle, and this is on the real estate exam, but some people really don't get this, is conforming and non-conforming properties,
Yep.
right? So, for example, the houses in the numbered streets are all relatively small. That house is overbuilt for that area, meaning it's higher value by probably a couple $100,000 than the average home in that area. And it's a lot nicer, right? So the person that can afford that versus that can afford the home right next to them, it's a different subset of a market. And you got to start thinking about school districts, all the kind of things that someone that can afford a $500,000 house versus someone that lives in a $200,000 house, and the amenities that end buyer, that home buyer wants. And so that's what I kind of explain to people too. Even when it comes to flipping houses, hey, if the house is all 12 to 1,800 square foot homes, and you're buying a 3,000 square foot house, it's gonna hurt you on the appraisal.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be nothing that's comparable to that crazy house with the crazy addition that the previous owner did.
Yeah.
So that's another big thing with conforming, non-conforming use, and to be careful. And what's so funny about what you just said is I just put a house right by that house under contract. It's 4,000 square feet. I'm closing on it.
Oh, nice.
And so it's 10 bedrooms, 4 stories. It's an older house.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, older house, but way overbuilt for that neighborhood.
Yeah.
But again, I kind of just wanted to. It's like, when you play Monopoly, I'm buying that house just to put it in the collection.
Yeah.
I'll cash flow on it, but it needs a couple $100,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
Because of how big and how old it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting point. Very good question from that follower.
Agree.
Hesitation causes fear.
It does.
And fear causes inaction. And action keeps you from growing.
Yeah. Keeps you stagnant.
Keeps you from growing.